Hi ladies, today we're going to learn about two forces, friction and air resistance. So our goal will be to recognize the effects that these two forces have on the movement of an object. But before we start talking about friction, let's do a short review of yesterday's topic that was balanced and unbalanced forces. So most of the time, when we talk about the forces act in pairs. For example, in yesterday's question about the boat, the, there is a force pushing down the boat, and the name of this force is called weight. That, as you must already know, the weight includes the mass of the object and the gravity. In this case, the gravity of the earth. But there is another force acting on the boat. That is the force of the water that is pushing up the boat. In this case, we can call it the buoyancy force of the upthrust force. So, the buoyancy force of the upthrust force. And in this case, if the boat is now moving up or down, we can say that the size of the forces are the same. We can say, like, for example, this force is 30 newtons and this force is 30 newtons, so they are the same. They are in opposite direction, and so the boat is not moving. In this case, we can say that the forces are balanced because it has the same size, 30 newtons and 30 newtons, and there is no movement. If the boat is moving up, for example, if we have a weight of 10 newtons, and the upthrust force is 30 newtons, there's going to be a movement. This movement is going to be upward because the upthrust force is bigger than the weight. So in this case, since one force is bigger than the other force, the forces are unbalanced, and there's going to be movement in the direction on the biggest force, in this case the upthrust force. Okay, to summarize, when two forces that act on an object are in opposite directions, and these two forces have the same size, and there is no movement, we can say that the forces are balanced. But if we have two forces acting on an object, and these two forces have different sizes, for example, 3 newtons and 5 newtons, in this case there is going to be a movement in the direction of the biggest force, and we can say that the forces are unbalanced in this case. Now, when we talk about balanced and unbalanced forces, we also talk about net force. How can we calculate the net force? How can you find the net force? The net force is just the addition of the subtraction of the forces acting on an object. For example, if we have this object in here with two opposite forces, one force is 5 newtons and the other is 5 newtons, we just subtract the sizes of the forces. In this case, 5 newtons minus 5 newtons equals 0. So there is no movement and the forces are balanced. In another case, we can have 10 newtons and 5 newtons acting on the object. In this case, we have 10 newtons minus 5 newtons, and the net force would be 5 newtons. In this case, since the net force is different to 0, there is going to be a movement. The movement is going to be in the direction of the biggest force, that is 10 newtons, and we can say that the forces are unbalanced. So that's the way we find the net force when you have two forces acting on an object.